no longer news that Mr. President has declared a state of emergency in the state based on the political crisis. But there have been so many reactions. The majority of the reaction from across stakeholders of the country has been that the action of the president was not backed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And people expected, for those who said it was unconstitutional, they were putting their hopes on the National Assembly to correct, in their words, the error by the president. But unfortunately, they were disappointed yesterday. So what's your reaction to the position taken by the National Assembly yesterday?
Well, let me welcome you to our office of the Center for Human Rights and Accountability Network, Chran'S. The moment the Mr. President made a proclamation of state of emergency in River State, we issued a press statement condemning the President's proclamation, being that Mr. President had relied on Section 305, Sub 3 of the Constitution of Nigeria. And if you look at the section that the President relied upon, you would have seen that it is very explicit. It is clear that for an emergency to be imposed in a state, there must be some stringent conditions that the Constitution has taken time to outline. One of which is that it is either the part of the country affected is at war, or there is imminent attack or invasion of that part of the country, or there is a natural disaster or emergency, or there is a threat, a potential threat to Nigerians' unity. All these are the condition precedents that must be visible before the President can now declare that part of the country a state of emergency. And when that is done, he did not say that the democratic institutions, like the governor, like the House members, should be suspended. In fact, no paragraph in that section of the Constitution, Section 305, no section of it or paragraph mentions suspension of the governor, mentions suspension of the House of Assembly. It is very clear. The office of the governor is a creation of the Constitution, likewise that of the House of Assembly. These are the institutions that make up a democracy in any country. Now, the only section that talks about suspension, that talks about impeachment, removal of a governor of a state, is Section 188 of our Constitution, which clearly spells out the reason for which a governor can vacate an office. One, it is either the governor dies while in office. Two, it is either the governor resigns from office. Three, it is either the governor is incapacitated, unable to carry out his functions. Four, it's either the governor is impeached. These are the conditions for which the office of the governor can be so vacated. It is very clear in our Constitution. Section 1 sub 2 of our Constitution also states that no part of Nigeria shall be governed except by the Nigerian Constitution. The Constitution has 320 sections and divided into 8 chapters. There is nowhere in the Constitution that talks about suspension of a governor. The governor is not an appointee of Mr. President. Neither is he an employee of Mr. President. The same way the governor, got his mandate, which is by elections, it is the same way Mr. President got his own, mandate, which is by elections. we are operating a federation, a three-tier system of government, the federal, the state, and the local government. The same power the governor has is what the president has, save that the governor does not control the security apparatus. He has the same mandate with the governor, and his tenure runs for 4 years. Now, Section 11 talks about when the House of Assembly is unable to function effectively, carry out its functions, the National Assembly can step in and take over the legislative function of the House of Assembly. The President made a proclamation and took away the function of the House of Assembly established by law when there was an issue as to whether the House exists or not. The Supreme Court recently determined in a matter between the House of Assembly led by Martin Amehule versus the governor, Sim, and the Supreme Court made it clear that the House of Assembly actually exists under the speakership of Martin Amehule. And the court went further to emphasize that the funds of Rivers State should be withheld until the governor presents the budget of the state before the House of Assembly. These are issues in the, that are before us to look at. Now, the president has made a proclamation. He has breached Section 1 sub 2. He has breached Section 11 because when he said that the president so appointed by him as the soul of the Lord can make regulations and refer to him in the Federal Executive Council level to rectify, he omitted the National Assembly, which is where he breached the section of the Constitution. He breached Section 188 by removing the governor that was elected by its own citizen. He also breached that section 305. Now, the governor has immunity against criminal prosecution under Section 308. Right now, the governor tenure ought to run for 4 years. What happened to the governor now? How is the governor's security? How is the governor being protected? These are the issues that the civil groups like us have come out to canvass in the public. So we had called on the National Assembly to restore democracy, to restore hope to Nigerians, and bring us back to the rule of law. Yesterday's, let me call it drama, that happened at the National Assembly was the lowest moment in our democracy. Lowest moment in our democracy because we had thought that this is the only image of democracy, because people who are there are people who are elected to represent people who voted them into office. When the military takes over any civil society governance, the first arm of government that is affected is the parliament, because they will be what? The parliament will be proscribed. And so we have thought that the National Assembly will stand up and correct that wrong that the president has done by rejecting that proclamation and restoring democracy in Rivers State. The National Assembly, the Constitution says, Section 305, says that the National Assembly can rectify the president's proclamation of a sort of emergency by a two-thirds majority of each of the National Assembly. That is the House of Reps and the House of and the Senate. So we had thought that we would see a clear, division in the Senate, where you will have a head count. First, you will have a quorum of 73 senators to form the quorum out of 109. Then you will have 220 or 240 senators to constitute the quorum in the House of Reps of 350. So we have thought that we will see a clear head count and then a division, and then we will see them go out to vote for and against the president's position. But what we saw was a drama that played out, and then we came out, we just hear those in support of the proclamation say aye, those against say nay, and then we hear aye, and then they say the ayes have it. How do you now use the soundbite of the high to quantify, in the case of the Senate, that you have over 73 senators Same thing applicable to the House of Reps. How do you use a high response to quantify if the Senate actually formed that majority to tell the majority needed by the Senate, by the House of Reps to pass that presidential resolution? So for us, what we saw was a complete setback for democracy. Though we had anticipated it to happen, because the Senate, the National Assembly, seemed to be an iron shield of Mr. President Bola Tinubu's administration. I say this with all sense of responsibility, and I can give you instances why the Senate and the rest of the 10th Assembly has become an iron shield. People call it a rubber stamp. For us, it's an iron shield because Mr. President has clearly committed an impeachable offense. The President went ahead to swear in the sole ambassador without the Senate and the rest giving it confirming the President's proclamation. He went ahead to swear in the sole ambassador without the Senate and the rest giving it confirmation of the proclamation. That is one. Two, the President used the Constitution of Nigeria to swear in retired Vice Admiral Ibo Abbas with a constitution which of the constitution of Nigeria that created the office that Ibo Abbas is today occupying. And he swore to uphold the constitution. Which section of the constitution established his office? So you can see a clear violation of our constitution, which is an impeachable offense. So the action of the National Assembly is a complete setback to our democracy, which we fought for. And it's very sad, and it's a crying shame that we could have people who are former governors, former this and that, in the House of Reps, in the Senate, sitting down and overlooking our constitution and allowing the president to stand on it and triple on it the way he wants. That's our reaction. If you want to go into the politics of Rivers State, that one is a different issue entirely. We have no interest in the politics. Our concern is that our constitution has been breached, and we are taught that the last hope of the common man, the last hope of Nigerians was the National Assembly, but they have let us down. And so for us, it's a crying shame.
Thank you.
Yes.